Je m'appelle Philippe Iskander, je suis le directeur général des élections pour les universités de l'Alberta Union des étudiants et étudiantes. Bienvenue à la forum du Campus Saint-Jean. I promise that will be the last time I speak French. But other candidates are welcome too, and if you would like to ask a question to the candidates in French, go ahead, but you might want to paraphrase it. But anyways, welcome to the Campus Saint-Jean Forum. All of the races are here with us for the 2013-2014 Executives and Board of Governors representative, as well as we have a representative from the UPass referendum yes side. The format for the forum will be each candidate will get a 2-minute speaking turn, followed by an opportunity to ask their opponent, if the race is contested, a question for 30 seconds, followed by an opportunity to respond for 1 minute, followed by a rebuttal, which is 1 minute. After the debate is over, other candidates are allowed to ask, members of the public or everyone here has an opportunity to ask a question. We are accepting questions on Twitter as well at #UASUvote. And I have prepared questions as well, so please ask as many questions as possible. All right, if we can get the race for the Board of Governors representative started, we will start with Brent Kelly.
Désolé aussi pour le... désolé en avance pour le franglish suivante. Je m'appelle Brent Kelly et je suis candidate à la réélection au poste représentante étudiante au board de gouverneurs de cette université. Il y a 3 initiatives que je veux faire avancer sur l'année suivante qui servira au profit des étudiants. La première initiative est de continuer à renforcer la coalition des associations dans le board de gouverneurs. L'objectif de cette coalition est de fournir une meilleure opposition à l'initiative de l'administration qui ne sont pas dans l'intérêt des étudiants. La deuxième initiative est de mieux intégrer l'opposition dans le cadre existant de promotion de l'Union des étudiants. Les étudiants bénéficieront grandement si le poste de représentant et président de l'Union des étudiants étant de mieux collaborer dans leurs efforts dans le board du gouverneur. La troisième initiative, je voudrais présenter et de mettre en place un système pour les étudiants de rencontrer leurs représentants. Il y a trop de distance entre les étudiants et leurs représentants. Et cette initiative sera un espoir à réduction certaine de cette distance. Donc, c'est un peu de ma plateforme. Pour plus d'informations, vous pouvez consulter mon site web à brentkelly.me. Alternativement, vous pouvez m'envoyer un tweet sur Twitter à PKLLY. Et n'oubliez pas de voter pour le Brent Kelly, le 6 à 7 mars. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. The next race will be the race for the Vice President Student Life, and I believe only one candidate is here, so we'll have candidate William Lau. You have 2 minutes, thanks.
Bonjour mes amis, je m'appelle William Lau, and I'm one of 2 candidates running for VP Student Life in the upcoming SU elections. Today I'd like to go through really briefly the 3 key pillars that my platform is built on, and I'd like to elaborate a little bit on how those can be applied to Campus Saint-Jean here, Faculty Saint-Jean. So first off, the first key pillar is defending student voice. And that's to make sure that student opinions are heard in administrative decisions that will ultimately influence all of us as individual students. And one example of how that could be applied is by reevaluating the students' union fees that students here at LaFac are paying, and making sure that the services are connected back to you. I know some of the services are over at a main campus, and if they're not relevant to you, then we believe that those should be reevaluated. The second key point, key pillar to my platform, is supporting student health. And I've received a few complaints already about the physical activity venues here on campus. And I think that's something we could look into, and the possibility of moving around the facilities a little bit and working together with our VP Operations Finance to see whether or not there's another space available on this campus for the facilities for physical activity. Last but not least, strengthening community action is something that I'm really passionate about. And I believe that the communications between Faculté Saint-Jean and main campus is something that could be improved and would allow for events that are held on main campus to be more accessible and more available to students here on this campus here. Thank you.
All right, the next race will be the race for the Vice President Academic, and there's only one candidate, Dustin Chen.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm afraid I'm the first person to start without French, but my French isn't particularly good, so bear with me. I'm afraid I have to do it in English. But my name is Dustin. I'm running for re-election to the position of Vice President Academic of the Students' Union. I've previously worked as President and Vice President Academic of the Science Society on main campus. If I'm elected, three main priorities that are important to me. First is making textbooks more accessible. Right now, students are expected to pay about $1,000 for textbooks every year. I intend to work with a bookstore, but also with libraries and here with Le Carrefour in order to make textbooks more affordable by students, or for students, by finding efficiencies in how bookstores operate. Secondly, I want to work to make and support teacher professional development so that students have access to the best professors on campus. I know that Campus Saint-Jean is known for excellent teaching staff, but if you've ever taken a course on main campus, it isn't always the case. Lastly, the university is bureaucratic, and I don't know how it is here on main campus, but certainly the policies and procedure at Campus Saint-Jean. But I know the policies and procedures at main campus can be a barrier to student success. So those are three of the issues that I'd like to address. I'd like to say that I do have a track record of working with Campus Saint-Jean and the OFSG, working on addressing barriers to payment of transfer payments, and also working on barriers to Campus Saint-Jean students to apply for student awards. Did you know that you can't apply for student awards in French, scholarships or bursaries? That's a problem that I'm trying to address. But otherwise, I hope that on March 6th and 7th, tomorrow, you'll consider voting for me. Thanks.
All right, the next race will be the race for the Vice President External. There's only one candidate, Mr. Adam Woods.
Hello, Faculty Saint-Jean. Thanks for coming out to the forum today and hearing all of us out. I would do this in French, but I think it's important that you all understand what I'm saying to you. So for that reason, I'm going to stick with English. My name's Adam Woods. I'm running for the position of Vice President External, which means that if elected, I represent all of you fine folks to the government, provincial, federal, municipal, whole 9 yards. I'm running on three main platform points. The first is mental health. Currently, the province only gives about $10.4 million in funding to public institutions in Alberta for the purpose of mental health. That's it. That's not planned to continue over 3 years. So I want to make sure that funding is both continuous and increases, because obviously mental health isn't going to go in 3 years. It's going to remain here for as long as students are stressed, and students are always going to be stressed. So for that reason, funding is needed. Secondly, my big issue is student employment. Just a couple of weeks ago, I've already talked with some of you about this. Alberta's only student summer employment program was cut, meaning that we're going to be the only province, including of the territories in Canada now, without a summer provincial employment program. This provided 3,000 jobs to students, and that's more competition on the summer job market. That's a harder time for you to get a position now. And we need to ensure that there are supports available for students through the government to receive good employment, because earning tuition and paying for tuition is obviously something that many of us strive to do, and it's a lot harder than you think it is when you first sign up. Finally, who here knows what a mandatory non-instructional fee is? I've touched on this as well. All right, hey, awesome, some of you do. Mandatory non-instructional fees are how the university charges you what's called backdoor tuition. So in 2009, there was a tuition cap passed stating that the university wasn't supposed to charge you for tuition past inflation. They made other fees, made them mandatory, and said that you all had to pay them. So as I told many of you earlier, everybody in this room right now pays $300 a year for floor space, and that's the fee, it's floor space. And every time that we bring this up and say, hey, like, what are we being charged for? They change the description of the fee. I have many other platform initiatives I want to work on. Those are just the big three. If you could check out my website, www.woodsforexternal.ca, I'd very much appreciate it. Thanks for hearing me out.
All right, the next race will be the race for the Vice President of Operations and Finance. There's only one candidate, Josh Lay.
Bonjour mes amis, quoi de neuf? Rien. Je ne suis pas courant avec l'argot des jeunes maintenant. Je m'appelle Josh Lay, ou comme vous dites, Josh Lay. J'aimerais être votre vice-président des opérations et finances. L'autre jour, moi et mon frère ont célébré la culture francophone. Nous sommes allés à une cabane à sucre et j'ai mangé pas une, mais 2 tirs d'érable. Et oui, c'était bon. Et j'étudie un programme baccalauréat en commerce, administration des affaires. Et c'est un plaisir de siéger au Students' Union au cours des 2 dernières années en tant que votre conseiller d'affaires. Et j'ai hâte de vous représenter et de servir durant l'année prochaine. Mes objectifs pour l'année à venir sont les suivants. Améliorer les entreprises de la SU, bien gérer les projets sub-EPA, Students' Union Building et Physical Activity and Wellness Center, et renforcer les canaux de communication. Je m'excuse. L'atmosphère et la culture à la faculté Saint-Jean, grâce à l'association des universitaires de la faculté Saint-Jean, sont impressionnants. Et je voudrais en parler davantage sur ce qui vous aide à réussir. S'il vous plaît, visitez votejoshley.com pour plus d'informations à propos de ma campagne, ou bien contactez-moi sur Twitter à @JoshLay or Twitter à @JoshLay. Votez pour Josh Lay pour votre vice-président des opérations et finances sur le 6 et 7 mars. Et comme le jeudi, je vous souhaite la paix. Merci pour votre temps.
All right, up next is the race for president. I believe there are only 2 candidates here for the race for president. The order will be Petros Kuzmu first and then Sadiq. 2 minutes each.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Petros et je me présente à la présidence du Students' Union. J'ai 6 ans d'expérience au Students' Council de l'Université de l'Alberta, mais j'ai aussi tout un bagage de nouvelles idées à proposer. Now, I spent most of my childhood in an Italian colonized nation, so my French is pretty poor. They never really taught us that. However, I'm going to focus mainly on my speech on 3 points. And one of them is about Campus St. John, the other one is about international students, and the other one is about a greater issue. So, in terms of presidential platforms, if you go online, I'm actually the only president who has mentioned international students and Campus St. John on my platform. In regards to Campus St. John, I think it's important for the Students' Union to expand our influence outside of the Students' Union building. Let's try and set up sub-TVs here. Let's try and communicate to each other the different events that are going on, and let's try and make sure that we can build a greater connection between Campus St. John and main campus. But the other point as well is in regards to international students. When it comes to international students, they could face grave difficulties becoming permanent residences, and that's something that I want to start advocating to the federal government, making it easier for international students to get their permanent residency here as well. And the third point I want to do is propose a new idea, something called a block week. University of Calgary does this thing where you can take one course for 1 week right before the fall-winter semester. It helps students graduate quicker, it makes the university more money, gives students more options, and it's a win-win situation for everybody. So if you guys are interested in someone who's experienced like me, I'm this year's Vice President External, by the way, and who's also proposing new ideas, then you guys might want to think about voting Petros Kuzmu for president. And if you guys catch me later on, I have this sweet Monopoly money with my face on it. So perhaps you guys can buy yourself some change if you guys vote for me. So thanks a lot.
Salut. That's pretty much it, sorry. I spent a lot of time in a French school, but unfortunately it's been quite a long time since I practiced my French, so apologies to all of you that I won't be speaking too much more French. It's great to see so many people out here, a few faces that I recognize. and especially the dean out here. I think that's great. I think, yeah, huge. That sounds weird. I can't clap with the mic. Anyways, I'm going to focus more of my speech on what I'd like to do with CSJ and even RSJ. I think the first thing that Petros pointed out pretty clearly is that it seems like the two campuses are very independent of each other. I'm not going to lie, a lot of times coming from North Campus, I envy people from CSJ. You guys have a great space here. There's a lot of community that's here, and I envy you because I feel like there's only this one group at CSJ, whereas there are many small pockets of groups on North Campus. And I'd like to change that. I'd like to see this pocket of students come out to more things on North Campus, and for us to also come out to more things on CSJ, because I think it's great to have some intermingling between the two groups. In terms of my experience working with people from this campus, I know a lot of students here. I've been working with some people from the AFSJ for quite some time now, so I do have a lot of experience working with students from this faculty as well. In terms of SUTV, it's something that actually Colin, your SU counselor, brought up to council, and that I feel like I've already addressed with the general manager. So in terms of what we can do, I think really it's just making sure that
10 seconds.
We're better connected. There's more communication going back and forth. You can go on my website, www.votesadiq.ca. Follow me on Twitter, @votesadiq. Don't forget to vote. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, Sadiq, if you stay right there, you'll have an opportunity to ask a question to Petros, 30 seconds.
Sure, thank you. During the campaign and on the campaign trail, Petros has been talking a lot about the fact that he saved students about $2,000 in tuition. I was wondering if you could clarify that a little bit in terms of what group of students is targeted, what your role was as Vice President External in making sure that those students actually saved $2,000. Yeah, just elaborate more a little bit on that.
Thanks for the question, Sadiq, and I'm glad you gave me an opportunity to tell students that as well. So, as Vice President External, one of my main jobs is to advocate to the provincial government and to ensure that tuition and fees remain affordable. There's something called market modifiers. So if the university ever decides to make a proposal, they can be like, hey, provincial governments, there's this program that we feel like tuition should go up because the rates aren't comparable. We feel like this is something that we should do. So this is something they actually proposed for graduate students, and this is something that was going to affect all students, let's say undergraduates who go into graduate studies. And the second we allow one more market modifier to happen, the second we allow one group of students to also get a tuition increase, that kind of gets the ball rolling for other students as well. So in terms of that, I played a pretty instrumental role in getting the word out there to talking to media, also coordinating stuff with our provincial partners and ensuring that this kind of nipped the bud. I talked to the deputy minister about this as well, and the assistant deputy minister personally about this issue, telling them that this is a bad idea. So thanks a lot for giving me the chance to explain to students how I saved them.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Sadiq will have 1 minute to recap.
Thanks. Thank you for clarifying that. The one thing I want to stress about that statement is that the $2,000 market modifier was being proposed for graduate students. Currently, market modifiers are something that plague a lot of our other faculties on campus, a lot of undergraduate students. For example, Josh is in the Faculty of Business. He has to pay about $250 on top of every course, I believe it is, to go to the School of Business and graduate from there. Unfortunately, I think the SU has started a little bit of a dialogue with the provincial government, with university administrators on that, but I think we need to do a little bit more than just have a discussion. I think we need to take tangible action to make sure that students don't face market modifiers in the future and that we can start the rollback on market modifiers right now. Now, as a representative of undergraduate students, I want to make sure that we focus that on undergraduate students, not graduate students.
10 seconds.
I think it is important to work with both grad and undergrad students, but I think it's also important to focus our efforts as much as possible on undergrads. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Petros Kuzmu will have 30 seconds to ask Sadiq a question.
Absolutely, thank you. So, in regards to international students play a large part of the U of A. My parents were international students, that's how I got here. I have a tremendous amount of international students who are friends as well. What are your specific plans on bettering international students here at the U of A?
Cool. Good question. Something that I outlined yesterday at the Myra Horowitz Forum, something that Dustin, the individual running for re-election for Vice President Academic, and I have done this year is we've set up a framework to make sure that we create an International Students Association. Although it's important for the SU to be able to advocate on behalf of students, it's also important for those groups to be able to advocate for themselves as well. It's also important for us to be empowering those students to be able to speak up and talk to us about the things that they see that are going on in their community. So we want to facilitate that dialogue by creating that association. Unfortunately, we've faced a little bit of a snag in terms of the membership of the group, but I'm hoping that Dustin and I can work things out and iron those kinks out before the end of the year. So really, I think it's about putting the fate also into the hands of international students and having them advocate for
10
themselves.
seconds.
Who's more passionate about international student issues than international students themselves?
Thank you. Petrus will have 1 minute to reply.
Cool. I also think that having an International Students Association is a good idea. It would have been nice for it to happen sooner. It's been a little bit over a year, but I'm looking forward to working with Dustin next year if I get the privilege of being elected president on that issue. But beyond that, I feel like a president needs to be a president of all students. And in regards to international students, we need to make sure that we're also advocating for them when it comes to talking to the government. A very easy and tangible way to do that is permanent residencies. That would substantially help international students in regards to, let's say, staying here in this country. It would be horrible for an international student, for myself, to think that I can come here, pay a tremendous amount of international student fees, and then all of a sudden have to go back to my home country and wait for a permanent residency application to go through. So I think that's one tangible way. While it is important that we do work in the International Students Association, I feel like the president can play a lot more of an active role being advocates for them as well. Thank you.
All right, last but not least, we have a representative from the UPass Yes referendum.
Hello everyone, thank you very much for having me here today. My name is Colton Yamagishi. I'm the current SC president, and I'm promoting the UPass Yes campaign. So, first I'd like to say thanks for having me. This is my third year here for the election forum, and I'm happy to see so many people out here, staff, faculty, and a lot of students. So how many of you guys have a UPass? Ah, everyone, so handy, great. And how many of you actually use that UPass? Pretty much everyone. I know Bonnie Doon's a very exciting place to be. But sometimes you just want to spread your wings and explore the rest of Edmonton. So it's a little bit boring, but I'll give you guys the rundown. We're renewing the UPass contract for a 4-year term. Almost all the same things that you currently have. Unlimited transit in the Edmonton Transit Services area, St. Albert, and Strathcona County. This unlimited transit will happen in the fall and winter term, as we've had before, and a special bonus, a spring-summer UPass is coming next year. So look forward to that right away, it'll be good. Also a few new things in the service that you've seen in the past few years, like being able to pick up your UPass on campus here at Campus Saint-Jean, and yeah, a lot of great things. So here are the prices in the upcoming years. 2013-2014, $122.92, 14-15, will be $129.17, 15-16, $135.42, and 16-17, $141.67. These prices are a really, really good deal right now. We had a proposal of about $170 from ATS, and we're able to lobby that down. So a good deal for students. It's $89 right now just for 1 month of an adult pass, so $30 more, and you get 4 months worth. Pretty good deal. Who can opt out? People with work experience with ETS, so if you're staff, if you have a co-op outside of the service area, or if you have a disability that disallows you from taking transit. All around, I think the UPass is a great deal, and we want to support it for 4 more years, so come out and vote UPass yes. Thanks.
Thank you. Alright, so now there's an opportunity for everyone in the audience to ask a question. If you'd like to ask a question, there's a mic right over here. Please state what race you would like to ask a question to, and please make the questions not specific to one candidate in the race, but just to the whole race. And if you don't have any questions, I have some questions prepared, and we have questions from Twitter that we're taking. So anyone who wants to take the first question? Alright.
This is a question for the presidential race. I know Sadiq mentioned something about RSJ, and I was just wondering if you wanted to elaborate on that, and that Petros maybe wanted a chance to talk about what his plans were for RSJ as far as incorporating more involvement with the students' union and things of that nature.
Okay, the question is regarding the relationship and involvement between residents of Campus Saint-Jean and the students' union, right?
Yes.
All right. We will start with Sadiq.
Being somebody from residence, I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what residence life is like. The only thing I don't understand is a little bit of like the isolation factor I think that you get at RSJ. You're not around all the other residences. And working on the RHA last year as well as chairing the RHA this year, I think the RHA is taking great leaps and bounds to try to make sure that more of the residence associations are connected. But really I think what we need to start doing is start getting the word out about what's going on at North Campus. Ways to do that, maybe even talking to some people at the radio station and having like a regular radio session going to inform students at CSJ what's going on North Campus. Maybe even using Le Mouton Noir to continue to disseminate that information. And also working with Colin, I think, or the next SU counselor is important. Obviously, I think we need to bring SU TVs here as well, which I've already talked to Colin about, maybe even a few other forms of communication. Thank you.
Thanks for the excellent question. As this year's Vice President External, I had a unique privilege of actually getting to work with residence associations. One of the things that I'm trying to do is eliminate dormitory property taxes that the city has on residences. And I actually went to a couple lobby meetings with students here at Saint Jean to these meetings as well. So what happened with me, the university sees me as a fresh face on these issues with residences, and also sees me as a partner. And I think that's going to advance a lot of the issues that we do have with our residences. I know that other residences do kind of feel a little bit left out when it comes to advocacy issues. One residence that we've been focusing a lot of our time on is obviously Lister, which is an important issue, but I feel like other residences like Hub, for instance, has issues as well. But RSJ, I feel like that's an important residence that we can be leaving out of the cold as well, and making sure that we can also be working with them and hearing their issues out is extremely important. So yeah, there's that. And in addition, expanding sub TV outside of sub, making sure that we're a lot more aggressive about this and that we're getting it done. That's it.
Thank you. Do you have any more questions from the floor? Alrighty.
Hi. This is for those running for president. I was wondering what your #1 goal is and the steps you'll take to initiate that right away, briefly.
Alright, we'll start with Petros.
Okay, let me preface this with saying votepetros.com. On my website, which is my Facebook page, I do have a 31-page platform document that clearly outlines what are the steps I want to take for each goal, so you can check that out. But in terms, I'm going to kind of cheat, I'm going to say two things. So first is reestablishing trust with the university and trying to get on both sides. Right now, we don't trust the university when it comes to these mandatory non-instructional fees that we pay for. That's extremely shady. In addition to that, we're facing issues in our residences right now that we don't really have much trust on. And we need to reestablish that trust and resolve these issues that are preventing that kind of trust to happen. The second thing is confidence as well. Confidence with the provincial government and making sure that we can be confident with them that they're going to be investing in us. In 2009, they slashed nearly $90 million in scholarships, grants, and bursaries for students, and they have yet to actually put any of that money back. So I think trust with the university and confidence in the government, I think those are the two big issues that I'm going to be focusing on as president next year.
Okay. I think my #1 goal for the upcoming year is something that I've already started to work on, is sort of developing a culture of care on our campus. When I say that, I mean that I feel like a lot of times our services or our building or just the SU in general doesn't feel accessible to students in terms of people of other genders, of other cultures, of other just external groups. And I think developing that, I think, is important. And also, in terms of care, I think health, mental and physical health is important. I know that during final exams last semester, there was some talk about bringing pet therapy to the French campus. And I don't think that actually did go through. I think there were some snags. Something that I want to do. It's coming. Something that I'm working with the Office of the Dean of Students on is pet therapy, bringing that back. Pushing the fall reading week proposal through, but also, once again, making sure that we develop an accessible service for our students. Thanks.
All right, do we have any questions for races that are not for president? We have some from Twitter we can ask. Oh, not for president?
So my question would be to Dustin. As far as you're concerned about scholarship awards from main campus, we're not allowed to apply in French. What's your plan for that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the very first thing that I did when I heard that you can apply for scholarships and bursaries in French is I gave a call to the registrar's office, followed by a call to either a dean or the vice dean here at Campus Saint-Jean, and thirdly a phone call to Campus Saint-Jean at the LFSG. I think this needs to be a united advocacy effort. That being said, our registrar's office on main campus is slow. They're slow to make change, and this should be a very obvious change that they should be able to accept applications in French. They aren't, and they said that they'll get back to me on it, which is lovely. In all honesty, I think the best case for success we're going to have with this is waiting for a new registrar to come to office in September 2013. As well, I'm also currently participating in a review of financial aid infrastructure on campus. I'll continue to raise it, but if you've got the Dean of Campus Saint-Jean and the Student Association lobbying and nothing's happening, I don't know how much else I can do, but I'll keep working on it for sure.
Thank you. Any other non-presidential questions?
This is a question for the candidate for VP External. My question is, considering the activities that have happened in the Quebec post-secondary student body last summer, and the hefty tuition hike that is presented to the students at the U of A for next year, does the candidate believe that taking it to the streets, bringing our student body together, is it a possibility to fight tuition hikes, or are there more feasible ways that we can face this issue? And if so, what are they and what does he plan on doing? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. That was actually an excellent question, and I'm surprised this is the first time it's come up in this race. The answer to that is whether or not a protest is a good idea. Yes, protests can be good ideas. Whether or not it's necessarily feasible or going to get us the results we want, I don't think that's going to be the case necessarily. This is Alberta. This is not Quebec. At times, I wish it was Quebec. I wish there was that level of engagement and that level of, I'm going to say, protest. But that isn't necessarily present in Alberta. So that's the first issue. I don't necessarily think we could get as many people out in the streets as they did in Quebec. With that being said, I think that we've been working as individuals involved in advocacy on a lot of these issues for a long time now. Mandatory non-instructional fees is something we've been working on forever and have gotten no results on. If you look at how the administration has handled issues this year, such as Lister, such as some other proposals that are currently going on, I think it's clear that the administration does not always listen to us. And I feel that if answers aren't received in the next year, then at that point it would be time to start considering some more aggressive action, for lack of a better term.
I guess we'll take a question from Twitter right now.
So this question is for Board of Governors representative. If instituted, how will you ensure that reps will fulfill their tabling? If they don't, will there be penalties?
Right. Thank you for the question. It's a great question.
with regards to the system of mandatory tabling, before a system is instituted, there needs to be a broad system of consultation. We need to be talking to counselors, to the executive, to other elected representatives in university and SU governance before we institute such a system, because the risk of instituting such a system without consultation, what you're going to risk happening is setting up a system that's not going to work properly, or people aren't going to show up, or people aren't going to know when and where they're supposed to be. So you can't just set up a system right away where you just have penalties and incentives for attendance. You need to do a lot of dialogue and have a lot of dialogue with various representative constituencies that are going to be tabling at that table. So long story short is that there will be incentives and there will be disincentives for individuals for tabling, but it's a long system of consultation. So thank you.
All right, are there any more questions from the floor for any race?
This is a question for the student life race. I was just wondering, at orientation, they talked a lot about big events that happened at main campus, like dodgeball tournaments and antifreeze. I'm not even sure what it is. I was just wondering if you had a plan to incorporate CSJ more into those initiatives, and yeah, we like that fun too.
Thanks for the question. I'm glad you like to have fun, and I like to watch other people have fun, so we make a really good team. But to build on that, I think communication is the foundation of that. And I think even this year, Antifreeze Campus St. John was invited. It was just that there wasn't enough time for registration and involvement. So starting with that, I think with better communications, we'd be able to better communicate our events and get your student body involved as well. Along with that, we should definitely build up a system to facilitate with transportations to make sure that access to these events would not only be simple, but would be more convenient to your student body here. And another thing I would like to do is increase communication so that you can invite our students over to your events as well, so we can start the dialogue. Thank you very much.
All right, any more questions? Can we get one from Twitters?
There are more races?
Either OpsFi or yeah, I don't know if you have any for UPass.
I don't. But
yeah. OpsFi?
No.
Okay, I'll ask the operations and finance person a question. Let's see. Okay. What is the purpose of dedicated fee units, and what is council's role in deciding what purpose fees should be collected for? Thank you.
Bro, I know the fee.
Here we go.
Freaks. That's a really tough question. Okay. Well, DFUs are dedicated fee units, are meant for specific groups. Then the students, they fundraise, or they get funds to them. So there's APERX, the Alberta Public Interest Research Group. There's a bunch of other ones. But I don't know the full scope of that question, so I can't promise you a full intelligent answer on that one, to be honest. But one thing that I will do as a total aside, Campus St. Jean is very disconnected to the SU, and as a business student, I'm also relatively disconnected to the SU as well. And I understand that sentiment, and so this year as students counselor for business, I was able to bridge that gap between with the business and SU. So one of my things I want to explore more is how to engage Campus St. Jean students with the main campus. And one of them I want to do, I think there's the Célébration Francophonie next week, and I'll be there. So I'll look out for you, say hello to me, so I'll see you then.
I will be there.
All right. Do you have any more questions from the floor? All right.
I have a question for the candidate running for VP Academic.
With the professional development for professors, I'm sure that there would be costs associated with that. Would the students have to worry about incurring the cost, or how do you plan on managing the financial side?
That's a really good question, and yes, there are costs to connecting professors to more professional development activities, but right now on main campus there's an entity called the Center for Teaching and Learning that provides professors with professional development activities, and turnout is consistently low. It's a few instructors attending one of their sessions each and every day, and they're already paying for staff having to put on these sessions, but professors aren't going. So I think that the SU needs to lobby the center to do a better job of reaching out to faculties, reaching out to Campus Saint-Jean. One of the models that works particularly well with research is the Research Services Office model, where in each faculty or campus there is someone who is responsible for pulling people out to the center so that the professors have access to these professional development experiences, be it learning how to use Moodle properly, how to write a good multiple choice exam, or creative ways to engage the classroom. So I don't think it's necessarily do our students need to pay more, but rather I think it's how do we connect more professors to what's already being offered. Thanks.
All right, any more questions from the floor? Okay, I'll ask a question to the president race. My question is, President Indira Samarasekera has recently talked about cutting specific programs to accommodate for potential deficit in the operating budget. Do you believe specific programs should be cut, or instead doing across-the-board cuts? And if your answer is specific programs, which specific programs would you like to cut? We will start with Sadiq.
Free's got all the tough questions. Maybe this is sidestepping the question a little bit, but I do really think what we need to do through some of the university governance committees is figure out what efficiencies still can be made. I know that there have been a few committees that are trying to address that issue, but I think we need to continue to push that. I think something else that might be interesting is to look at some revenue sharing or some cost sharing between different faculties. I think it would be really interesting to look whether or not, let's say for example, engineering, Faculty of Engineering, my faculty, can do some things with CSJ. I know that in talking to a few people from CSJ, I think, what was it? The IT department was recently cut, I believe, and that volunteers are in place now to sort of facilitate that. Whereas engineering is in the process of building a brand new building. I mean, it doesn't seem really efficient or effective to me, so I think we need to sort of spread the love a little bit. Be real.
Thanks for the question, Free. These kind of questions get me super excited. So, again, I do need to kind of mule over this a little bit, but my initial thought is perhaps we can do specific faculty cuts. Yes, there could be administrative efficiencies that can be found, but for those faculties that are able to actually fundraise phenomenal amounts of money so we can support, let's say, faculties like the arts and etc., I think that's perhaps a strategy that we can start looking into, right? Faculty of Arts in terms of fundraising compared to the Faculty of Engineering, I mean, it's a pretty stark difference. So I mean, that's something that we can look into, but I think it's really important that when it comes down to it, students aren't paying for more tuition. That was a question brought up last time, and the way I see it is, why should students be paying more for less, right? In the past, since the 1990s, we've seen tuition gone up by 300%. Then we've also seen textbooks gone up by 170%. I think that at the end of the day, perhaps that's something we need to ensure. And in terms of spreading, the love, I think, we can be spreading the wealth a little bit. So, yeah.
All right. Any more questions from the floor? Do we have a question from Twitter for Student Life? Oh no, we have a question from the floor. Yeah.
I'm not too sure who to ask. I think it's going to be VP Life though. As a sports, I'm part of the athletic at U Alberta. Because I come to University of Alberta. But our teams are very successful and we have very low numbers come out to games. And as a student athlete, it's very discouraging to see that because you watch TV and you see all these big American teams and they've got 16,000 people going and watching their games. Now, I realize it's not going to be possible to get 16,000 people, but what's a plan or like do you have an attack of how to help athletics get more visible in the student life?
I think this is appropriate for student life. Agree? Okay. All right.
Thank you for your question. I chatted with Todd last week a little bit about what we could do to promote athletics on campus. And interestingly enough, athletics is one of the only things we could come up with that would really be able to tie students on campus together as a whole. Right? And it's nice because those are events that we wouldn't have to like start and plan. Right? Those are events that are already there in place that all we would have to do is promote and get students out. And to start that off, I'd say to build a culture around sports isn't something that we could do right away. Right? It's not something that can be done in the first month or two. But one of the ideas that are being discussed right now is a tailgating party for the week of welcome and orientation, so that we could foster that culture in the first years and get them out to a game early on in the year. Along with that, communications again is very important, and as we work along with the Students' Union to build up its communications through social media and SUTVs across the different campuses, I think sports is something we'll definitely want to promote as games come by and see if the students get engaged. Thanks.
All right, any more questions from the floor? Do we have a question from Twitter from, well, let's get a question from Twitter for the presidential candidate. Do you have one of those? Sure.
Okay, so for the presidential candidates, what is the greatest strength that you don't have but the other candidate does?
All right, we will start with Petros and then Sadiq. Your time is counting.
So, I think it's important to preface this with Sadiq and I were actually in the same fraternity. We're really good friends. We work with each other all the time. But in terms of a strength that Sadiq has that I don't, I think that both a strength that I have that he doesn't as well is our unique experiences with our respective portfolios. Me with the external side of things and Sadiq with the student life side of things. As a result, there are some experiences that I don't have that he does, and as a result, there's some experiences I have that he doesn't. So in terms of his greatest strength is perhaps that he can one-up me in some other experiences, but I feel like it's also a two-way street. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so what I'm going to try to do is actually answer the question. No offense, Petros. In terms of specific things, very specific things, I think one thing that Petros can do and has experience doing in his role as Vice President External this year is advocating to the provincial and federal governments. That's something I don't have experience on, but something that Colton, I think, has worked really hard on this year, transitioning from the VPSL to the presidential portfolio. And I think it's something that I could develop. I've been working with the municipal government a lot this year on the UPass. So I hate to plug myself, but the UPass question, the prices you see in front of you, that's a direct result of some of the work I've been doing this year with municipalities. So I do have some experience in external advocacy, but not to the provincial or federal government levels. And so that's something that through our lobby groups as well as lobby conferences, I feel like I could develop. So to directly answer the question, lobbying to the provincial and federal governments. Thank you.
All right, any more questions from the floor? Okay, I'll ask a question to the Board of Governors representative. Okay. Facilities and operation is constantly worrying to be environmentally friendly or to use environmentally friendly alternative energy sources where economically feasible. When budgets are tight, using more expensive environmentally friendly energy sources may mean cuts to faculty or increases to fees for students. Would you support using alternative energy when this is the cost?
Thanks for the question, Free. That's a really great question. I mean, with regards to the university budget,
the reality is it's all about trade-offs and priorities. Now, I think the university does a very good job of making environmentally sustainable practices a priority, but I think that more could be done in that regard. Technology is always improving and costs are always getting lower. So I think, given time, environmental costs or costs of heating and lighting our facilities will just decrease over time as a result of technological improvement. However, I do think that the university should be doing more to improve environmental sustainability of this campus. Now, I don't necessarily think that should be as a result of cuts to faculty or staff. I think that there should be more done, the university should do more to work with the government for environmental sustainability grants. There's lots of grants that are available from the government in that regard for retrofitting facilities and things like that. So thanks for the question.
All right, I believe we have a question for Twitter for external.
So for the external candidate, what is your relationship with the other members of CAUSE, and what plans do you have to engage with other SUs?
Excellent question. For those of you who may not know, CAUSE and CASA are our provincial and federal lobby groups. So a lot of the time it's a lot smarter for us as representatives to not just hang out and lobby provincial and federal politicians by ourselves, but to bring some other representatives from other universities as well. One great perk I have about running for this position is that I spent the last year as what's called the External Policy and Information Officer. I have worked for all of our current executives and I've done research for them, relating specifically to the external portfolio. And as a result, I have a really good relationship with a lot of members of CAUSE already. A lot of those who will likely be continuing on. Raphael, who is the current VPX of University of Calgary, he's running for president right now, as well as numerous representatives from Lethbridge. So I do have a good experience and a good relationship with a lot of the members of these lobby groups, and I think it's very important that we maintain these relationships and actually make them stronger, because at the end of the day, politicians are a lot more likely to listen to 4 or 5 of us than just one of us walking into a room. They're also a lot more likely to meet with us if there's 4 or 5 of us at once rather than just one. So these relationships are very important to continue on.
All right, we'll take 2 more questions total. Are there any questions from the floor, or are we going to keep doing Twitter? Twitter, okay, we'll do a question for student life. Do we have one?
So for student life, how will you work on the transparency in the SU, since issues have arisen in the past and in this election?
Thanks. I don't know where you're finding these questions, because I'm on Twitter, well, like sitting there, I can't find it. So that was to speak a little bit about transparency, right? I think a large part of transparency is how available and accessible is that information. And for even right now, like all the order papers for students' council meetings are all online, but do students are they proactive enough to go find that information? The answer is usually no. So how I want to increase transparency is to make that information more accessible. And when the papers are up, post it on Facebook. Post it somewhere where students, it'll just pop up on the newsfeed, they can click it if they want, if they don't, that's okay. But I think social media would be a great place to go with papers like that, just to make sure that it's not only transparent, but it's there for students to access one click away. Thanks.
All right, and the last chance to ask a question from the floor. All right.
I'm getting lots of questions in. Just kind of a general question to the president's race. We probably touched on it before, but what's your #1 idea to make life better for me as a student here at CSJ? And yeah.
All right. We will start with, I believe, Sadiq. Can I start first? Yeah.
To pick that one thing is difficult. The one idea to rule them all. I think the first thing, the #1 thing that I would do is make sure that campuses are better connected. And I'm saying that because life should not just be about being a FACR. I know that FACRs are sweet, I know that being a FACR is awesome, but there should also be a connection to the U of A, and you shouldn't just feel like a FACR, you should also feel like a U of A student. But I mean, in terms of just making things generally better, I think there's a lot of things we can do. I know that you live in residence, so better connecting the residents is also important. Making sure that we follow through with the property tax issue as well, so that there can be more programming in residents as well, and rent not consistently and constantly going up. But there are a lot of different ideas, a lot of different things we could do. Now my time's up.
Yes, it's an extremely difficult thing to just say one issue that we picked that better your life. As VPX, one of the things that I did was, specifically for Campus St. Jean students as well, I think for all students, was help change the Elections Act. I know that a couple of Campus St. Jean students had a hard time voting, and that got changed this year, right? So what's the one issue that I'm going to focus on for Campus St. Jean students? I think, well, one of them is for sure this better communications between main campus and Campus St. Jean, right? And the tangible way to do that is again through these sub-TVs, and perhaps looking even ways we could be sharing revenues with the FDXJ, right? And that's one tangible way of doing it. Other things I want to focus on is, let's say, mental health and financial wealth, right? In regards to mental health, making sure we can finish it before reading week, right? One of the new ideas I'm proposing as well, block courses, I think is an idea that may help students be less stressed as well. And in terms of financial wealth, making sure we can save you guys more money, and making sure that the university and the province is investing more money in you guys as well. So it's a multitude of things, but hopefully you find that great.
All right, well this about wraps up the forum for today. Thank you all for coming. Like Colton, this is my third forum for Campus St. Jean, and it's always been my favorite. Just to announce a bit of competition, Campus St. Jean used to have the highest voter turnout out of all faculties until last year, when Augustana took the record for the highest voter turnout. So there's going to be a competition, so I hope you all bring it out to voting. Voting starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. and it goes up until Thursday at 7 p.m. Yes, and they have one announcement from AFSJ.
Yes. Et demain, vers ces mêmes heures, nous avons les élections pour la UFSJ 2013-2014, alors tu peux faire les deux votes en même temps.